Plaintiff Bridget Staley says she and her husband were good friends with the defendant until he married his new wife. Bridget claims their relationship became even more strained after the defendant asked to see pictures of her breasts. Bridget's suing him today for caregiving services. Defendant Anthony Luna says Bridget was always jealous of Anthony's friendship with her husband. So much so that she lied to her husband about Anthony flashing her his genitals. Anthony's countersuing for lost wages, stolen property, and punitive damages.
Start with you.
I've known Tony Luna since I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. I grew up in the same neighborhood. When I was about 18, he introduced me to my husband, Michael. And we were always very close. We were always either at his house or our house. When he married Christina, his second wife, things started to kind of separate. We never really contacted with Tony very often. We didn't see him. It was like he was in his own little thing.
What do you think happened?
Little clique. Personally, I think that Christina was a little bit jealous or had animosity on the fact that we were friends and that we were close friends. That's the only thing I could think of that it was, because I never really said or did anything to her to do anything. And then as time, when we did see each other, when I would see in contact with Anthony, he would sometimes make some very rude comments that he shouldn't be saying.
Like what?
Say, for instance, he would call my phone, and I'd say, "Why are you calling me? Why don't you call Mike?" And when he would, he'd say, "When can I see your boobs?" Or when are you going to take a picture of your boobs?
Did she find out about that, his wife?
I don't know if she ever knew or not.
Because that would be very much a reason to lose contact with you.
I have no idea if she knew that or not. I don't know if he did this without her knowing.
And what would you say when he asked about seeing you?
I just kind of throw it off because we always were friends, and I took it as more of he was joking.
Okay, right. How many times did he do it?
I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times, different times.
At some point, did you conclude he wasn't joking, or he was kind of joking but meant what he was saying?
Maybe he was. I have no idea. I have no physical attraction towards Anthony other than being very good friends of the family. And
all right. So, what other point do you want to make before we get to the caregiving services you're suing him for?
The whole thing when I first started suing, when I made the lawsuit, my intentions was to get his attention for him to contact me. He never contacted me back. I would try to call him.
Let's get some background from him. Sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I've known Bridget since she was 10. She was a childhood friend around the neighborhood, back and forth. She knew the family. And I've known Mike before I've known her. We were all teenagers. I was a teenager when we both met. And there's a lot of things between me and Mike that we don't even discuss with our spouses, okay? That's how much of a tight bond we had. She's always been jealous of that, okay? And there was a situation where she said that I flashed her that caused a strain between our marriage. Our relationship.
Your friendship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so he stopped talking to me for 2 years. We talked on the phone. She said that.
How do you know that was the reason? He told you that?
Yeah, he told me that. Well, I found out through her. She went and told me why I lied about it. And he was hearing on the phone when he found out.
But your understanding why you all stopped speaking is that it was over that allegation that you had flashed her.
Yes.
Is that why you all stopped speaking?
No, I don't even.
Yes, sir.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
Okay, that's never become an issue.
No.
This is the first time you're hearing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Plaintiff Bridget Staley says she was friends with the defendant until he asked her for a picture of her breasts.
Go ahead.
Then she stated I was hitting on her in my home when my sister's dying in my home, and I have my son, my daughter, my wife can walk in anytime. Why would I?
Who did she tell that to?
Oh, she said it to everybody in my family.
Did she say it to her husband?
I'm sure she did.
All right, sir, did you want to speak today about what your wife may have told you and how you responded to it?
Right.
Because you all have been friends since childhood, and that's a pretty tough allegation to be told about your friend by your wife. State your name.
My name is Mike Staley.
All right. Were you told these things by your wife?
Yes.
All right. And did it cause a reaction? Did it strain your relationship?
No, not really. I'm really quite a serious guy. I know a lot of things have been happening to him. So I just look at life that way.
You didn't believe your wife?
Oh, no, I believed her.
So you didn't have a problem with this man saying these things to your wife?
No.
What do you mean it didn't cause a strain?
Only for him.
Bottom line, it didn't bother you.
Not the way most people would be bothered, no, sir.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Ma'am, tell me about the caregiving services you're suing him for.
In the very beginning, when I found out about his mom, that she was actively dying, I was driving up the street and I noticed that his brothers and him were standing outside. They said that my mom was dying and if he wanted to come and say goodbye. At that moment, I stopped and I went in there to see how everything was, observe the situation, because I do that for a living. I do hospice care.
Okay.
I noticed that there wasn't it was mostly the family that was taking care of his mother. And when they asked if I knew of anybody to take care of her, I think it was one of his sisters, I said, I do that for a living. So they kind of brought me in to start taking care of his mother.
What was the agreement?
I didn't really have any kind of, okay, you're going to pay me this much money.
There was no agreement for you to be paid?
At the very beginning,
Okay,
no.
when did one occur, an agreement?
He had said to me and my husband a couple of times that he was wanting to pay me when he
What
sells
was
his
the
mom's-
agreement on paying you?
I didn't have a set amount at the beginning.
Okay.
I didn't really want to
Did you ever have a set amount?
Yes, I did.
And what was that, and when did that
here's-
agreement occur?
Here is my...
No, I need you to tell me, when did this set amount agreement occur?
February 23rd is when I sent him a demand letter.
No, the agreement.
The agreement was that
When?
Probably around in August. After
So August, there was an agreement to pay you how much?
$11.50 an hour is what I charged.
Is that what he agreed to pay you?
Yes.
Ma'am, let me just tell you what I'm listening to. You are talking all around my questions. You are giving me the impression that there was never an agreement. I get the impression from what you're saying that at some point you just decided, let me send them a bill. You tell me, was there ever an agreement?
Never.
If so, when?
Never an agreement.
What was discussed in August? She makes reference to an agreement that was made in August.
No, there was never an agreement made for any kind of money.
Have you heard a
contractual or
request for $11.50 an hour?
Nope, never.
Did you receive a demand letter?
I received it in February for monies that she stated that she owed. That's when it made me sick.
That you all owed her?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the first time I ever heard of that.
Gotcha.
She said in this text right here that she had the pleasure of taking care of my mother and helping us because everybody was there. We had hospice there. I had my sister taken care of with hospice and VNA, which is a nurses group that takes care of them. Mm-hmm. And IHSS, my sister-in-law was employed with IHSS, that she was taking care of my mother and also helped take care of my sister, that she was getting paid for,
Got it.
that I had to sign for.
Got it.
Okay. And then when I transferred my sister to Atlanta from Rubidoux, my daughter was getting paid for it, and I had paperwork drawn up so that me, my wife, and my son could get paid for
How did
also
you
doing that.
respond to the demand letter? What you're saying makes a lot of sense, and I've heard of this situation. I have personal knowledge. That is how it occurs. And how did you respond to this demand letter, however,
I was
in February?
I was sickened. I was shocked. I
But
was
did you
like, wait a
respond?
minute.
Did you say, hey, I don't owe you a dime. We never had an agreement.
Yeah, I responded legally.
You called,
with all-
or how did you respond to her?
I didn't get the chance to call her back. I went to a paralegal to get my paperwork done and responded that way that I didn't owe her anything.
Okay, do you have that?
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Plaintiff Bridget Staley says she was friends with the defendant until he asked her for a picture of her breast.
Ma'am, what proof do you have that they agreed or he agreed to pay you $11.50 an hour? Because it doesn't sound like that happened to me.
No, the agreement
Sounds like you
was-
decided arbitrarily, let me send him a bill for $11.50 an hour.
The
She
agreement
did.
was when he sold
Do you have
his-
proof of it, ma'am?
Yes, my husband witnessed him saying that he said,
Other than your husband, the closest person in the world to you, do you have any other proof?
Not that he had made that verbal. It was
Not
a verbal
that he agreed to
agreement.
pay you.
It was a verbal agreement.
I know. So you have no other proof.
Just my husband that witnessed.
Good enough. All right. And you have,
Your Honor, I have
the
also
letter
text
or your
messages.
response.
Yes, for that she stated and highlighted that this was what she commented to me in.
Wow, some
anger
thanks
litigation.
I get for not asking for a dime. It was my pleasure to care for your mom and sister. When I get the extra money, I will give. Why don't you give the charity the money? So not only is she saying she didn't want a dime, ma'am, you were telling them you're going to give them some money.
The situation was, I didn't ask for a dime at that present time because talking about after his
This
mother,
was January 26th, ma'am.
after his mother passed
This was
away,
January 26th. And you say you gave him a bill in February. So within 2 weeks, you went from saying, you don't owe me a dime. In fact, I owe you, to now saying, yeah, you owe me so much, I'm going to sue you. No, ma'am.
I didn't
Anything
feel-
else before we get
I
to his
didn't
counter?
feel-
Ma'am, is there anything else before we get to his counterclaim?
Yes, here's my bill.
All right, good enough. Let me see them. But you haven't convinced me
And
that
this
you all
is-
had an agreement. And your counterclaim for stolen property
Yes, sir.
and lost wages and punitive damages, how does she owe you?
She owes me because when she was at my home, my sister's down coat that I had bought for her, the white one, was missing. Same time after she had left, there were some iPods that I had there that I had bought.
You mentioned it to her because she said something about paying. What was this about?
That was the money that she had taken that we had given to my wife.
Is that the part of the
Put on the
money you're
card?
suing for today?
Yes.
All right. And ma'am, why do you talk about paying something?
This is what that situation is. While I
Did you
was
owe them money, ma'am?
no, I did not.
All right, but yet you told them you would pay them some. I'm going to dismiss your claim. $1,842, sir. The lost wages and the punitive damages, I'm not granting you. Have a good day. Judgment for the defendant.
Are you aware that your husband wants to see my boobs?
She has been jealous of me because I'm a
Jealous?
successful black woman and
Just-
she does not like
Oh,
black people. It's
please.
obvious. And she's jealous of my position because
Oh,
I'm with him
yeah.
and she's not. And she
Really?
proved that in court.
You know as well as I do, I treat life like NASA. Anything that's happened, I got in my head. So don't play games with me.
Well, then your wife's a liar and she needs to own up to it.
Really?
Why?
She would never ever.
Are
No,
we
she's-
liars too?
I don't want to talk anymore about not you, Mike. Bridget is.
Ever wonder how important a signed agreement is to your case? If so, go to my website, askjudgemathis.com, and ask me about it.